We would like to start with our first panel, Policy, Astrology and Analytics. So for that, I would like to call our moderator, Dr. Rajiv Chidbar, Joint Forum Coordinator, AMID, Healthcare and Healthcare Policy Expert, to please be on the dais. Then we would like to call Dr. K. Madan Gopal, Advisor, Public Health Administration, NHSRC, National Health System Resource Center, Government of India, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and also a former Senior Consultant of Niti Aayog. So please come on the dais. Dr. Ravi Gaur, Founder and Director of DRG Path Labs, Chairman Medical Advisory Committee. So please be on the dais. Mr. Neeraj Jain, Growth Director, Asia, Middle East and Europe Path. Dr. Gayatri Vishwakarma, PhD in Statistics, MBA Quality Management, Principal Scientist at Zydus Life Sciences Limited. Over to the experts over here now. I think now the discussion would get more intense and we'll learn a lot from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Aditi. Good morning, everyone. It was really a very, very enlightening session in the morning, and thanks for the insights that you really gave. While looking at this, I really thought that it so resonates with VUCA. I mean, and we started talking about it almost like a couple of months back. But yes, this has been VUCA has been something theoretically while it was in the combat systems. But then now, if you look at it, each and every sector kind of like has VUCA embedded into it, with volatilities growing day by day. It's something that is unimaginable. Healthcare absolutely is not untouched by VUCA, and I think what we're seeing in the last almost 2 decades plus, especially for the last 5 or 6 odd years, we've got a sea of a change that healthcare has actually taken forward to. In fact, when we were looking at the entire presentation on how newer technologies are actually going to be a game changer, I was thinking, and then this session actually is from policy, astrology to analytics. Look at astrology. It really comes from not only the spiritual part of it, but something that India embedded into it. Om se genome ka jahan janani hui hai. That is something what we can actually look at when we talk on VUCA. So I've got a illustrious panel here, and people who have been policymakers, people who've actually been game changers in innovation, and then we've got someone who's taken the entire public health conundrum to a very different shift altogether, and now leading it on sustainability also, and madam with innovation also, when we talk about how newer technologies and vaccines are going to be available. This panel will actually enlighten me more, and I'm hoping that everyone gets the nuggets that really cheers you for the next sessions that are really planned well. I think thanks to Manish ji and the entire team, the kind of sessions that are planned, it's very unique in its own way of talking about VUCA, in its own way of understanding how healthcare needs to really take forward this entire juggernaut on tackling certain ambiguities and issues that can really otherwise be sanity for humanity. So the first session kind of like took a lot of time, but let's go into the basics of this question. So sir, I'll come to Madan Gopal sir first, and you've got an illustrious career which has actually seen how policy has changed in the last couple of years, and you yourself, Niti Aayog itself has been an area which can change the entire landscape when you look at each and every sector. But post pandemic, policies in healthcare, especially with respect to public health, has seen a sea of a change, and these need to be strengthened into a PPP mode. And when I talk about a PPP mode, and I learnt it from a very senior professor of mine, that PPP should not only be embedded as a public-private partnership, it should be a partnership for a public purpose. And that's possibly something which you have, traded while in your entire stint. So how would you, emphasize on developing flexible strategies and fostering more innovative solutions when it comes to looking at VUCA in healthcare?
Thank you and good morning. And first, thanks PhD Chambers and Manish for getting me here. And you have mentioned about the astrology. Because the COVID time, we have seen many astrologers. Everybody was predicting which direction the pandemic is going, which direction the virus is moving, as if the virus is taking the consultation of the astrologers and behaving right as it is. It was doing like that. But you have rightly pointed out that during the COVID times, it was a volatile situation. Had it not been a resilient infrastructure, it would have been a catastrophe, very, very big catastrophe in the country. But how we can talk about the volatility and how the private sector was roped in during the COVID times, as you have mentioned that we need to build the partnership further. But we have to see from the traditional approach to the partnership to a very more pragmatic way of partnership, that we have to, though the common nomenclature is public-private partnership, as we have rightly mentioned, and I've been also propagating that it's a partnership for public provisioning, because it's for a public good, which we are already talking about. The partnership has to build from that. Otherwise, the moment you talk about partnership between private and government, the issue of trust and others, misconceptions, miscommunication will come in. We have to always talk about the partnership for public provisioning and how we can achieve a public good from that perspective. So traditional partnerships have been between the, if you look at the hospitals, you have been outsourcing the kitchen services, housekeeping services. Now if you look at the National Health Mission, we have been outsourcing the pre-hospital care, that is 108 ambulances, around 30,000 ambulances are there. If you talk about the mobile medical services, mobile medical units for reaching the untouched population, that's also a public-private partnership. And if you look at the other ways, that means the diagnostics, in many of the places, diagnostics have been outsourced. But COVID has taught us that how a partnership with the private sector can be a win-win situation for all the things, so that we can address the volatility and other aspects of that. Take the example when the COVID started, in 2020 we were having only one lab, that is NIV Pune, which was having the kit for diagnosing COVID. Then you see how the partnership was leveraged, how the diagnostic kits and other were made, and how the private sector came in and the partnership evolved. And when the COVID was declared as a disease of not a public health emergency, at that time we were having 4,000 laboratories equal in the private sector and the government sector. That means how the volatile situation with this partnership we are able to relate to that. Another opportunity, how we have been able to allay this volatile situation during COVID time, because it was a very complex situation. All the things were there. It was very uncertain. We didn't know how the virus would be behaving. We are not clear about the complexities associated with that. One aspect was that how to detect it. The other aspect was to provide treatment to so many number of people, population. You see that how collectively we have been able to handle this situation. It was an opportunity, because volatility always gives an opportunity to innovate, an opportunity to leverage on whatever leaderships and other things are. It's an opportunity also. When the COVID, during the first lockdown, what has happened, that so many complex and uncertain period was there. And there was a dilemma of how to provide care to the people who were stranded in the homes. Because it was a continuum of care for the people who are under treatment for the chronic conditions, hypertension, diabetes. It was not for treatment of COVID. We have leveraged at that time, all teleconsultation, all WhatsApp consultation, though it were done rampantly, but were all illegal, and the honorable courts have taken cognizance of that, and they have punished and passed orders against the doctors and the treating professionals. It was that situation. And we have made enabling thing in the form of having the telemedicine practice guidelines, and now you see how a partnership has been created, and you see how the command centers and other things, the private sector, they have partnered with the government, and they have help us in overcoming that situation. Had it not been the partnership with the aiding of the diagnostics, the point of care devices, the diagnostics, and the enabling this telemedicine, can you imagine treating a 4 lakh patient, 4 lakh COVID patients in a day? At that time it reached up to 4 lakh, second wave. And if you look at the hospital bed strength, and if you look at out of this 4 lakhs, at least 10-15% would be requiring hospitalization. 40,000 intensive care. At that time, the intensive bed capacity was 35,000. That means we were having ICU beds with the ventilator was around 35-40,000, including private government both. That was our capacity. Now you see how the partnership has allowed us to treat the patient at the home, and we were very selective in triaging the patient at the home and bringing the patient to the and we could allay the complexity, uncertainty, and we have been able to manage that thing. The ambiguity which was there, we were able to handle. That was another thing. Now going forward, what we can do is we have to see that how in partnerships we have to build in innovations. One of the biggest partnership which the government is having is this health insurance schemes across the country. You call it PM Janman, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, or any other state insurance schemes. They are having a partnership with the private providers. Previously in the RSBY there were a lot of innovation when the partnership happened, and that's why you have seen how the empanelment, enrollment, and other things, they flourished and other things. Innovation concept was there. But for having this partnership to thrive, you have to see and build in an innovation concept, innovation as a part of your key performance indicator when you are entering into a partnership. So that was missing. I think we should focus on building in key performance indicator, and the innovation should be a part of that. If you are allowing the people to innovate, you see the results. You see how the smart card industry, they thrived when the RSBY was rolled out. How so many transaction software, they have taught us how the transaction software they evolved, and we could at least now know how to administer this scheme of this magnitude. We are administering this scheme to around 700 million people. That means 70 crore population we are covering. It is not possible without a technology, and here the partnerships and other things have come in. The other, before closing, another thing which is driving these partnerships is the ABDM space, the Ayushman Bharat digital mission space. You see how things have been taken care with the use of these partnerships and other models. There are many models. But if you look at the way things have evolved, but it is quite comforting, but we stop calling it as a public-private partnership, we start calling it as a partnership for public provisioning, because both the people are working for the same people. कोई बस जाती है तो private and government both are there, but if the bus खराब होती है, what happens? Both the people come out, and they in the country both have to work together. It's not that only government will be doing, private and government both have to work together. So that this all from my side.
No, absolutely. I think you summarized how the healthcare went into volatility and what were the kind of solutions that we had. But then I bought a couple of newspaper articles over the last couple of weeks that we've been looking at, and amazingly, what has happened is, because of these frugal innovations and because of this very tight-knit, as you said, public partnership and provisioning that we are actually looking at, has really made India reach a landscape where we are now globally recognized. I don't want to go into the $5 trillion or $7 trillion economy that we are envisioning into, but yes, before maybe a $5 trillion or a $7 trillion economy, what India has now made its self clear is that we are at least solution and service providers in healthcare. And I'll just, if you just look at what I've got, we are trying to, as a country, also offset a lot of VUCA, and the government is doing it. I'll just show this. So, we're working on China. The first article you see is how we are trying to mediate on select drugs that come into China. And these are just a couple of weeks that we've been talking about. Even each and every big report, whether it's a McKinsey report or whether it's any other top big fours that are talking about India today talk about healthcare and travel sector as one of the big things. EU-India focus on fast-tracking FTAs. Again, minimum import on China to curb inputs. You talk about a very great article that the McKinsey just came out in Business Standard was on how India should be the next leveraged strategy for everyone in the world. We've got these free trade agreements not only happening in EU or not only happening in the with the United States tariffs and all that. It's in ASEAN, it's with the Quad alliances, it's with even the BIMSTEC countries and all that. That's pushing us. And further and further, if you talk about it, each and every publication is now talking about how we are progressing into it. So these free trade agreements have given India the leverage to actually dispel any volatility that possibly could reach VUCA to a part. How do you, from the government angle, visualize India taking it to the next level where possibly we could be not only the pharmacy of the world, but also the correct solution providers with the right technology. And in fact, in the morning we were just discussing about how India traditionally had that embedded into it. We were chatting about how Harappa was actually defined, and I saw that video commentary for over 2.5 hours where they talked about not only solutions provided towards healthcare, solution provided towards our own drainage systems, the way defense systems were actually created to create some sanity within the society. So is this going to be a reality in the next, by 2047, that we would take it forward? I mean, I'm talking about VUCA prediction and astrology, and this is something we should not be able to miss.
Because if you look at the astrological aspect, astrology are a map where you would be. But you have to make efforts to reach to that map. It's not that things are there in store, it's a goody thing, because previously also during the king's time, they used to have courtesans who used to be soothsayers. That means they will say only the right things, that this is going to be right, this is the right time. Yes, I agree that in 2047, things are in place, because COVID has taught us, because initially the response to any of the situation was a siloed response. If it is the Ministry of Health work, it's a siloed response. But you have seen the COVID, how the forecasting and the astrological aspects are built into that. One of the important things, they used to ask, the Ministry of Pharmaceutical, Department of Pharmaceutical used to ask, what would be the situation in the coming 15 days, 20 days, 1 month. These used to ask. And based on that, they used to sell feelers to the manufacturer that these would be the requirement, this would be the forecast. And that's why you have to prepare accordingly. That kind of mechanism is not. But we have to see that from that kind of approach, it has to be a very convergent approach. I think things are moving in the direction when the convergence and the intersectoral coordination for this kind of forecasting is happening. Now you would be seeing increasing, because you have seen the One Health. One Health has been led by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, so as to bring in the inter-ministerial coordination. But otherwise what happened, the health would be doing, animal husbandry would be doing, the agriculture ministry would be doing something, and the other ministries would be doing something. Now to bring all the things together, now you are having the PSA office to steer all these things. That kind of convergence is happening. So that you can forecast that what is the status of that. Immediately what happens whenever there is a scare of COVID, the coordination mechanism sets in now to saying that what would be the requirement, what would be the forecast, what would be the requirement of, take the example paracetamol requirement, what would be the requirement of that, what would be how the disease would be progressing, so that this forecast is available to the industry, and so that the industry can start the manufacturing. Otherwise they can't be stockpiling all the things. And similarly for the vaccine also, you have seen how the things have improved. And to integrate the technology and bringing the technology into the health stream, you see you are having a health technology assessment division at the Department of Health Research. Apart from that, NIPERs are there, you see how the industry, academic collaboration, other things are coming up and shaping up. Because we have to sustain our position as pharmacy of the world. For that you require a lot of industry, academic collaboration. but I've been always saying that what kind of academics we are bringing to the industry. Are our academic institutions able to bring any vaccine, any breakthrough in any molecules? We have to ask that question, because if you talk about the COVID vaccine, it was 2 universities which have brought that vaccine, and we all know that everybody might have taken a jab of that vaccine. It was university, academic, bringing that knowledge where out to the industries, and the collaboration there. That means things are in place.
Absolutely.
The forecast is very optimistic, but the steps which we have taken and the infrastructure and the intelligence which we are building, I think we have to collectively work and take it as towards this vision of Viksit Bharat. We have to set our benchmark very high. We should not be complacent in saying that ki ho gaya, theek. No, we have to set our benchmark. We have to have great aspiration to reach that mark. But that mechanisms are already set in. We are trying to push for innovation. We are trying to focus on research. Research grants are there. The first time you have seen that too much emphasis has been given on research. So too much emphasis on, we see the Gati Shakti also. So that the coordination between the ministries and other things are all happening. In fact, our health institutions are also there on Gati Shakti, so that everybody knows that which institution is where. So that kind of mechanism and other things are happening. You see, the forecast is very good, and the forecast is contributed to the policy, so that the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexities and the ambiguity which we have seen during the COVID time, I think in the coming years we are well prepared to address this volatility.
Yeah.
The another thing which is happening is the PubMed fund and other thing. They are trying to reduce. They are reducing it so as to hamper our the research and other thing. That kind of forces would be there, but we have to prepare ourselves and see that how we address this volatility.
Excellent points. I think we've addressed a couple of things which were very, very important, and two things that you really talked about was how to forecast, the market. And, someone who's actually been following the markets, and I've been following him also, Dr. Gaur, when you looked at, the entire pandemic striking us, and now even before the pandemic there were certain issues. Climate change has been one of the bigger issues that we're dealing with, heat waves and other things which led to a lot of healthcare issues that came in. Apart from that, we had, the response post-pandemic also, that how quickly and fastly we could be innovators and lead an industry where people are not only understanding the dialogue on healthcare, but also are being partisans or with the healthcare fraternity. And that's where we saw unpredictable market conditions coming out. So how would you term that in terms of the last, possibly post-pandemic, and if I could stretch it a bit, last 1 decade, where your experiences as not only at the helm of as a board member or as a CEO and a managing director, but also advising a lot of industry bodies look at it?
Well, this is good afternoon and good morning is still there. Very unique discussion. But when sometime the topic, the VUCA, when Manish and Rajiv spoke to me about like VUCA, I was wondering, like, in healthcare, VUCA always existed. I mean, it's like what, in fact, I have probably tried to redefine what we talk about VUCA, probably with the V is like, vitals usually change at any time. That's basic. I'm sure the surgeon sitting here with all medical, moment you walk out, it's all okay, patient is fine, and 10 minutes later, sister calls, the patient has collapsed. This happens. And this is typically, healthcare was always prepared for it. They need to prepare for it. But I think one of the important, like another example probably, we forward, like one of my colleagues, in fact, I was talking to him some time back when the topic came to me, and I said, he said, what are you talking about, VUCA? I said, yes, this is the biggest problem. Yes, the policy makers have to understand what is behind this. He works somewhere in the primary health center, somewhere in Ayodhya, remote of Ayodhya, somewhere. And their monkey bite and dog bites are pretty common. He said, for me, we would have anti-rabic vaccine, or injections were supplied, but for 9-10 months there were no bites. probably the precaution, whatever it is, it happened incidentally. Then the police district CMO said, no, the vaccines are getting wasted, withdraw them. And they were not issued. They were only issued like quantum 10 every month, sort of giving like, stock maintained, just to forget it, we'll supply you. He said, moment the very first month, the 10 were withdrawn. One rabbit dog and a monkey came, like 10 people. They walked into my chamber. What do I do now? This is what I'm saying. The VUCA, we actually phrase the primary level, healthcare, anywhere for that matter. But of course, I think one of the fundamental things is VUCA beat was like, it did not weaken us. I think especially, VUCA is, it basically makes us wiser. That's the fundamentally I have to say. And COVID, I think, when you in the same concept, COVID was something like, VUCA is always the air for the healthcare guy. It's probably, COVID broke that wall. You just feel the air now, you be ready for it, this is going to hit you, and be prepared for that. So I think when I just look back and, we were very complacent kind of a thing, and in fact, one of my colleagues is sitting here, Colonel Parth Roy, in fact, he was heading that time, the mobile container labs of Spice Health. We did almost 70 lakhs RT-PCRs in containers. And within 48 hours was told, like, move the container to Allahabad or Kumbh Mela, 48 days, to Guwahati. And they did that. It was, that is how preparations were made. That's how the NABL came up. There was no concept of audits of NABL at the mobile labs. There was nothing, no virtual audits of the lab was there, but 2,000 plus labs were accredited during the COVID. The COVID taught us that remote, wherever you are, you cannot raise your hands. In fact, I come from Indian Army background. We can see Colonel Parmar sitting here. I think we know we can fight at any point of time, and that's, I think, the mindset the VUCA is industry should adopt, and that's, I think, we learned hard way in the COVID. And I think everybody has moved from there. The fundamental thing from the diagnostic industry, what I'll say the VUCA for me was like, there was like, first thing when you just sitting in the boardroom, well, now this has come, what do you do? We was like, we have variable numbers and value wars. Today they were like, very first day we had 10 patients, okay, fine, 10, 20, how much you can think, 100? Next day we had 400. After that, suddenly, within a week it went to 3,000 patients RT-PCR a day. How do we cope up for that? Now that's one big challenge, that's one. Same thing, the value war. We started with 4,500. Within a month it was made 2,400. After 2 months it was made 1,200. Price, how do you justify that investments? It doesn't work. Now, number three then came, like the, I think, the unpredictability, and that's another issue. And the patient preferences. We don't know what is going to be ours, because initially there was RT-PCR. In fact, the whole turn happened that way. Normally, as a healthcare provider, we were used to prescription. Doctor will write a prescription. I'll go to the diagnostic center. I was used to that. Patient will come with the test written. We'll do the testing. But totally turn the table. First, patients were coming straight to us, calling us. So I want an RT-PCR done. If it is positive, I'll go to clinic. Now, how do you handle that? We never had this kind of situation. Pathology became the first point of contact, and then second point of contact. What do I do now? I think we need to prepare our customer care team, everything for that matter. Then in the new test range, suddenly people start talking vitamin D, IL-6 and all kind of a thing. I mean, I remember a situation which came like sitting somebody from the leading hospital, government hospital, topmost in Delhi, calling up, we don't have IL-6, can you help us get a kit somewhere from outside? And it was a Roche kit, market was closed. How do you do that? Somewhere we managed to in one kit, and then how things started. And then of course within that, innovation happened. We developed some alternate technologies, various algorithm systems, and we work out. Same thing, the complication, compliances and competition. The compliances were changing every day. Yeah. This is I'll surprise, within 1 month they said all the COVID positive patient has to be listed and in this portal has to be entered. And we have a RIS software system, all barcodes are there, but 4,000 entry in a separate COVID portal. How do you do that? Do you have a team of people? And no, you must be doing, many of the bigger labs had tough time because what they did was, okay, the aim was very nice, to make positive cases hotspot containment. So they started putting positive first, negative. So they were debarred. You said, no, that means your reports, 90% quality your reports are wrong. That is what has happened. But districts, the CMOs were getting a panic kind of a thing. So we had to address. Then we, of course, the government came to help. We got hold of various training centers, ITIs and all. These people came, even digitalized center. We even had trained our small basic housekeeping guy, just upload. That kind of a thing. That worked actually. Then came the competitions actually. The competitors was like, we had people coming from anywhere. They were non-corporate, non-serious providers. From 2,000 labs, suddenly we had 4,000 labs. Now, then how do you handle that? Non-serious players were already corporates, non-corporate, unstructured, everybody wanted to enter COVID testing. I think this is actually happened in diagnostics, similar to healthcare also probably. And the lastly was this is, automation, analytic and automation started talking about. Now, how do you justify that ROI in automation? Because will it go to work? Because from 4,500 to 800, today it's a 500 rupees, the test, the same test. Equipment justification is not there. At that point of time, things change afterwards a lot. And then so a lot of hype to hope. I think that's where we keep fluctuating. That situation we had, during the board member, we used to keep, what do we do? And that is something, situation was happening across healthcare. Like the one we sat in the boardroom and thought about, like many things we thought about. And ultimately we started talking about, post-COVID things get streamlined. Better. For us today, what it means is, it's like earlier we were obsessed with machines and automation. Today we think about obsessed about meaning. What is the meaning of that? How does it work? That's one. How do you make hubs? Can we go to this? Why should a basic test from periphery to come to center? Why can't we have point of care devices? The point of care devices have its own challenges, we realize. There's a quality control. Can we integrate them? One glucometer can be integrated to my lab. Across, wherever it is on the POC devices, can be integrated into one center and centralized call center, regional centers. Have a look at this. This is the quality results coming out. Develop regional EQAs, local quality control programs. So at least, it's like a comprehensive quality testing centers in regional labs, local labs, create kind of a thing. That was help, because that's actually happening now. A lot of POCTs are being given, point of care, whether it's a blood gas or even CBC or even your urine testing or even CRP testing, even it's a cardio biomarkers, everything is getting cholesterol, even that's kind of a thing getting automated. So probably this is the newer thing that's got integrated into our system. And then another important issue what we realized was like, we need to be, earlier the labs was pathologic centric. Pathologist has to be good. That's fine today. But I think the mindset has to change, patient centric. What patient needs. Pathologists became invisible but indispensable. That's behind that. More was what is there, but trust, because patient centric lab centers have to come up with healthcare for that matter. And those are just a small comparison, what we like, kind of a thing we did. Like, real example, revenue drop post-COVID. The post-COVID, about 30% of the revenue dropped down. And I'm sure, I still remember, we don't know the exact number of the labs, but pre-COVID we had about 2,200 NAB accredited labs. Immediately during COVID, number went to 4,500. No. But now, 1,500 labs are shut down. And this is, I have also opened a small COVID lab in Guwahati, it doesn't work. Now what do we do about it? So this is the example, the revenues went down. But then, shifted to more creating awareness of preventive health, health checkup, how does your health matters, wellness, immunity, more focus, more awareness. So the healthcare facilities or centers has to be more trained to that kind of awareness programs. That's one thing. And we're done regularly, giving camps, focusing on health, good part of health. Secondly was the price wars. Now, at that point of time, today we have, people realize all the labs were shut down, I'll say, or many of them are still there, 399 rupees full body checkup. Does it work? I don't know, because they have nothing, they're losing everything. Let us do something might come a volume war. But actually speaking, for sustenance, this is not going to work. For that kind of a thing, okay, let's move from value-based diagnostics to, say, we created a professional-based health checkups. Earlier it was the male, female, age-wise, that's what it is. what kind of profession you are you a sedentary worker or a high-end worker, and then risk scores to be calculated. 10 people have the same values, but who's more risk for cardiac disorders? I think that's what we adopted. That's where the wisdom we already had, data we already had inside. Then too many, you can say artificial intelligence LIS tools were there. Too many in the market today, so many of them. But I think that's not. I think we need to, which can be integrated, which can be actually, get some value add. That is what is to be done. Otherwise, we don't want to. And lastly, the trust deficit. I think that is something which need to keep building trust. For being trust, you have to be standing with the patient right there, because amongst them, talk to them. Otherwise, a lot of people again lose trust in healthcare. And this is what we learned in the boardroom. We need to be seen, we need to be heard, we need to be physically there. Otherwise, I think with the VUCA, I think VUCA was there. Maybe VUCA will come with a higher degree and keep coming. So I probably see VUCA was there, and various degrees of VUCA will be there. But I think we need to be, we are ready for that, and we should be. And here, what's lastly important is, I think the policy makers, I think they need to be real-time policy. When the petrol prices changes every day, and so much of automation, so much digitalization, so much of new technologies, everything is coming, every day something is happening. Can't we have a similar revision? Don't have to revise health policy after 5 years. No, go back, have a consortium, collaborate, come together. Because you don't have to have an automation, you should know your technology, how you can integrate the technology. Same conventional technology can be used for newer things also. Integrate, make use, multiple use optimization, using the policy makers, make them understand this is not like closed wall. I think we can put, and the real-time policy making should also be part of the book.
Excellent, sir, excellent. Thank you very much. I mean, I think my next question was a few nuggets on solutions, and I think I didn't interrupt your flow because it was right from, your summarizing VUCA as, vitals usually change on an everyday basis to, the last part which very, succinctly talked about, how patient centricity, trust, financial stress, and last was, the price wars have actually led to really creating a new war room against VUCA. With this, I mean, in fact, the last part of your entire solution is something which, I would take to Neeraj ji, because, these things are the very core to when we look at something which needs to make a societal change. If you don't have trust, the last part that, Gaur Sahab talked about, if you look at the entire, equitable access of resources that needs to be made available for quality healthcare and the continuum of healthcare care that needs to be provided, and right from, areas where snake bites and dog bites are available, galore to even, when we have heat bites or the frost bites that can actually be taken forward. So as Path, and I've known Path for almost like several years, right from my PHFI days that I've been following Path, and in fact, for everyone's benefit, the acronym Path is just not Path. It's not the way forward that possibly everyone was looking at. It's like program for appropriate technology in health. That was how Path was really looked at. So looking at the challenges that from a policy maker you heard, or from me and from Ravi Gaurji, how would you actually look at Path now, or not only Path, but as civil society members really mitigating VUCA?
Thanks, and thanks a lot for having me here. I will try and hurry up because I think we are now a little over time, or quite a little over time. So I'll be very quick. I think, firstly I want to just say that we've come a long way since the Vietnam War. 2 weeks ago, when Iran got bombed, it was like, whoa, what's happened? We started another war. A week ago, we heard the war's over. I don't know when it's going to start again. So the wars are continuous. We've seen that happen. We've seen a long war in Ukraine. So the world is changing really fast. Geopolitics has just taken over, and it has a huge impact on health. Okay, I must tell you that. We have been working in Palestine for many, many years on vaccination. We have been working in Ukraine for many years on TB, etc. We are seeing this play out. And every day we have to sit down and think about what's going to change. I'll just quickly go to, we've talked a lot about the pandemic. While it's good to chest thump about the diagnostic piece, because I think we did very well, but how many of you believe that we did well on the therapeutic? Anybody? You think we did well on the therapeutic? I mean, my opinion is that we kept changing the goalpost. At the end of the day, I think finally, we had ivermectin which came in, we had all kinds of drugs which were coming in. I remember some people were paying 80,000 rupees for a dose of something, I can't even remember the names anymore. Yeah? That's right. So there was this whole game that was playing out. I believe we could have done better on the therapeutic side, and I think we could have done much better on the oxygen piece, because already we knew when we had the first bout of pandemic of COVID, we knew that oxygen would be required. We didn't really prep ourselves probably. When the second round happened, we did, all guns blazing. So we could have done better. Having said that, are we prepared for the next pandemic? I'm not sure. I think there is a lot to be done. Maybe we are sort of just happy about how we came out of it. We are all happy, but we did lose a lot of lives. Could we have saved those lives? Probably a lot of them. So how do we think about that as we go forward? So I just want to put that little bit of a thing that this change is real, volatility is real, it is evolving very quickly. It also, I come from an organization that focuses on health equity. Please remember also in terms of inequity, it is increasing every time something changes. I can afford it, but there are many out there who can't. And that inequity is a huge issue. I think with RT-PCR, what we did was absolutely fabulous. We brought it down to a cost where everybody could afford it, it was easy to access, etc. With vaccines, again, we did a very good job eventually. Initially, I think we struggled a bit, but eventually I think India came up right on top in terms of vaccines. The world didn't do too well. Africa did not do too well. And I'm trying to take a larger worldview rather than just focus on what we're doing here. Oxygen, so for us as an organization, I think, VUCA is the new normal. It's every day. Every morning we wake up and say, okay, now who's fighting with who? What is required where? What is going to fail? Is polio finally going to leave this earth or not? It's starting to show up in Pakistan. I don't know if you're aware of that. So, we've got this. Every morning we are waking up and saying there's some new thing which is monkeypox. Any of you were involved in monkeypox? Yeah, there you go. So you know how it just suddenly flared up, and where's the diagnostic and where's the vaccine, and the whole world was reeling. WHO is reeling by itself. I was at the World Health Assembly in Geneva. WHO, we're not sure whether it's going to be left to half of what it started off as. So we don't know where it's going. Gavi just didn't manage to get $3 billion they're short on their fundraising. So this is a VUCA moment. We are going to see this for the next few years, which means new models have to be thought of, new partnerships have to come in. I think there is a role for everyone to play, but really we need to rethink our strategy. In terms of our challenges, one of the big challenges that we've been seeing recently is the geopolitics. And the geopolitics has a huge impact on health systems. It has a huge impact on what we can do, what we can't do. We were thinking of a global, a global health world. The global is gone. It's fallen off the health world, and now it's nationalist health world. So every country is thinking for itself. I can tell you, I went and met the Minister of Health in Nepal, and they said, hey, you guys failed us. You didn't give us the vaccine, right? Rightly so, because we had to think about our people first before we gave it to Nepal, and their system went down. China came in, so China created that whole relationship with Nepal in that process. Then the US came in. So, those kind of things are playing out. We are having, countries have military coups, like I work in Myanmar. They've got a military coup on one side, they've got, all kinds of political issues going on, and the health system is failing. So, I just wanted to, so I don't know if you noticed, but I'm the only non-doctor on this panel, okay? So I was feeling very inadequate when I started. I said, okay, let me talk about the geopolitics and the non-medical side of it. and that's what I did. But I think it's important for us to remember that this world is changing very fast. Health is at the center of it. We have realized the importance of health, which is great, and that is why now we get invited to panels. I think 4 years ago, nobody invited me to a panel, right? So we realized that health is at the center of our life. We need to make sure we do it, but I think there's a lot of work to do. Back to you, Rajiv.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. I think the geopolitical perspective that you gave is really something that's put India also on the focus. We've also become geopolitically correct, if that is a word that I can talk of India on. Coming to my next panelist and probably the last one right now, Gayatri ji, I mean, the pharma industry, everyone has been alluding to how vaccines have actually taken forward the entire thing, how even right now Neeraj Jain just talked about, monkeypox being talked about, and polio, now again Pakistan becoming the flag bearer of taking polio. Things have actually started to move on a good way also, but on a bad way also, and that is where the goalpost is daily changing when we talk about VUCA. You come from Zydus, but apart from that you have such an illustrious career on research, on statistics. How would you now define this challenging environment really unfurling, and what could be the probable things that you could actually envision around it?
Thank you for having me here, and I would like to thank Mr. Manish for inviting me for this, because I will just give example of a movie. Everyone talks about the policy makers, policy implementer, but nobody talks about the camera behind that, who is handling. So this is our role as a data scientist, so that what we are doing with this, because we are the just like what models we are building, based on that the policy will be made, and then that's how it will be implemented. So thank you so much for having me here. Related to like points on VUCA, I would like to say that the people, those who are impacted or challenged by VUCA is us. Everybody talks about like their problems, but yes, I want to highlight my problem also, because what happened, every day the data is changing. We are not having the data, quality data to build a good model, So what happened, to stay relevant, impactful and responsive, it's our responsibility to realign our goals to match this VUCA environment. So just like, because the title of this panel is the astrology. The astrologer, what they do, they predict based on the star alignment. We are the data scientist or biostatistician, we predict based on the data alignment. So until unless we have the good data, the quality data, we will not be able to predict what we are expecting. So in that sense, what I think that if we talk about the 4 components, volatility. So volatility means if we have to handle the volatility, we have to have some kind of real time forecasting and modeling. That is like adaptive modeling. We have been working, like this is my 20th of career after PhD. We have been working in static models. We now want the adaptive models, which runs. Why adaptive models? Because it runs and learn and evolve based on the data. So we have to have adopt the adaptive models, which can give us like there are some methods. We can use the Bayesian statistics and meta-analysis, evidence synthesis, causal inference approach, by which we can have the models which can give the more robust methods. The second thing, if we talk about the uncertainty. So uncertainty is always like we have the data which is incomplete or evolving data, especially in case of public health emergencies. We have the evolving data. We don't have the exact data which we want to. So in that case, what we have to do, we have to take the approaches where we can calculate the 95, we can quantify the uncertainty in some way with using the 95% confidence interval. So we can give the range of this and we can mitigate some of the uncertainty which we can pose on this. The third point is the scenario planning, which is the most important part to to deal with the complexity part of the VUCA. Because you know, healthcare is not a linear system. Like patient, providers, regulators, and the logistics, all are interconnected. So what we have to do, we have to have the models, those talk about the interaction of these things. So when we are talking about the interaction, we are including all layers of this. We can predict the multiple futures, which we can choose one of them. So we have to have beforehand so that the leaders or policy makers, they not stay behind, but a step ahead. They are staying a step ahead of having these kind of scenarios. The final one is ambiguity, which in Venn diagram if we present, it is a combination, it is coming from all other three components, ambiguity. And we talk about the data ambiguity. Data, because as a biostatistician, as a data scientist, I will talk about only data. If we don't have the quality data, if data is ambiguous, so we will have the poor data, we will have the poor model, we will have the poor policy. So based on that, we have to have the data, because if we have the data but it is ambiguous, we cannot predict the future. For example, let me give you, like a couple of days ago, I was reading one article, and there we were claiming that we are far better than the patient-doctor ratio. That is, we are claiming 1:836, right? Which is far better than as per the WHO standard, which says 1:1000 is okay. But it has this average mask, the regional disparities. If we talk about the urban areas, they have surplus doctors as compared to the remote areas or the rural areas. It has like how many number of registered doctors versus the practicing doctors. It has everything like aggregate we are seeing. If we talk about the generalist versus specialist doctor, all are coming under that. So just to mitigate this problem and to handle that problem, we have to have the disaggregated data and dynamic data sets so that we can test the different scenario and work on this. And in the last, I will say, as a data scientist, we are not just the number crunchers, but in this VUCA environment, we can be not only the relevant in that case, but we have to be absolutely essential.
Great, great. I think oil is the new data. Everyone recognizes it, and you've summarized it well in that sense. We're actually running out of time. I wanted to have another question for the panel members, but then I don't think we have the luxury. But yes, I think this opening session itself, which talks on astrology, which talks on analytics, has really given us ideas how we are preempting VUCA, how we are looking at mitigating it, and how we are trying to potentially dispel any VUCA, disparities that can actually make us more and more vulnerable. India's done a great job. You talked about Gati Shakti, where we looked at, how logistics and even supply chains have managed. I think we'll keep on doing the similar way, and by 2047, it's not only a Viksit Bharat, but I think it's a Viksit Bharat that is also giving other countries the developing quotient. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
I'll just take 20 seconds, not more than that. What's your data we said we're talking about thing, I think today, astrological intelligence, we're talking about AI kind of a thing for that matter. It's very important to have your data and your AI use, but remember AI is artificial intelligence. Use your actual intelligence, otherwise AI becomes awesome intelligence or it could be awful intelligence. Remember that. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank all of you. Before saying anything about the panel, I would like to first start with the felicitation. So I would like to call upon stage CS here, Dr. CS Hiraman and Mr. Tanmay Hegre. So please be on the stage to felicitate our esteemed panelist. Dr. Rajiv Chibber. Dr. K. Madan Gopal. Dr. Ravi Gaur. Mr. Neeraj Jain. Last but not the least, Dr. Gayatri Vishwakarma.